guys, so this is Corey with Cool Story Bro Games, or CSB Games, over at Twitch. And today I'm going to go over a little tutorial over building competitive Pokemon. It's something I've been asked a lot about, and just something I wanted to go over briefly. So we're not going to be super comprehensive, just kind of go over the basics. One thing I'm not going to go over is breeding more specifically. I figure most of you already know about that. Um, we'll talk about it more specifically with IVs and things like that, which we'll get into. Uh, but this is just kind of just a little, give you a little edge. If you're looking at getting on Battle Spot and getting a little bit more competitive. So I have a slideshow for y'all. So let's get into that. All right. So first we're going to go over IVs. IVs, or individual values. They're hidden stats that every Pokemon has. They go from 0 to 31 in each stat. So attack, HP, speed, defense, special attack, so on and so forth. When a Pokemon is at level 100, those IVs will add up to stat points. So at level 100, a Pokemon with 31 IVs in attack will have an additional 31 attack stat points. On the competitive battling level, we're at level 50. So those IVs are halved. And so roughly you'll get 15 added to that stat. I think the math works out to 15.5, obviously, but it's rounded down. So an example, and it's one that'll be pretty consistent, is with a Weavile. I use a lot of Weavile. I like to lead with him. So that's just kind of my base level. So a level 50 Weavile, just with no investments, its base attack at level 50 is 125. Now, if I give that Weavile 31 IVs in attack, that attack stat is boosted to 140. And this is not including any type of natures. That's something, each nature adds 10% corresponding to what it is. So if it's an attack boosting nature, you get an additional 10%. Next up are the EVs. And the difference between IVs and EVs is IVs are like your genetic code for the Pokemon. They're born with those. And once they're born, those IVs can't be changed. Whereas EVs are things that they earn through battle. And you can change those. You can reset those and build them however you want. And EVs just stand for effort values. So in Pokemon X, Y, and Oris, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and conceivably moving on even to Sun and Moon, a Pokemon can have a maximum of 510 EV points, with a maximum of 252 in an individual stat, so like attack or speed. So you could have 252 in attack, 252 in speed, and it's 4 in with their remaining status. And how the EVs work, for every 4 EVs in a stat, the Pokemon will gain 1 additional stat point. So at level 50, you get additional 32 roughly. So if you have 252 in attack, you'll have an additional 32 points in the attack stat at level 50. And using a Weavile as the example from earlier, at level 50, with no investment, the base attack is 100 and I have 120 right here, but at level 50 it's 125. But with those EVs, for a maximum 252 EVs, um, with no IVs, your attack would be 156. Now, when you include IVs into that, it goes up to 172. And the math's a little weird. There's equations for all of this online that you can find if you want to dig in deeper. Because they affect each other slightly depending on how many IVs and EVs and whether those are even or odd numbers. So there's a couple of points that can be distributed a little differently. But if you want to get into that, you can go online and find those. This is just more of on a basic level. Okay, so why do these matter? And this is pretty basic and self-explanatory. So if we take all of these things and add them together, our basic Weavile at level 50, with no EVs, no IVs, the attack stat is 125. Whereas 31 IVs, 252 EVs, not counting a nature, that attack stat will go up to 172. That's a 47-point swing. It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, it's significant. So like I said with the IVs, the only way we can control those is with breeding. With the exception being legendary Pokemon or Pokemon that can't be bred. In order to affect those, you have to soft reset and just hope you catch one in the wild that has the IVs you want. If not, then you have to keep soft resetting until you get it. It's a hassle, but that's really the only way to affect that. Whereas just a regular Pokemon, as in the Weavile, we can breed that. Through the process of breeding, we can give it the IVs we want. We can start off with a parrot Sneasel that has one perfect IV stat, let's say in speed. And then throughout the course of breeding, we can eventually grow that where it has all of its stats or perfect IVs. It takes a while, and honestly, the best way to go about that is acquiring a Ditto that has 6 perfect IVs. There's a couple different ways to do this. It's all through online. You get traded, whether it be through the GTS or just a straight up trade. I'll provide links down at the bottom, but I know the Nugget Bridge community is good. Pokemon Forever, that's where I got mine. And there's even some Reddit pages where people will send you these breeding dittos, basically. There's a couple of items that can affect the the IV distribution. The first one I'll bring up, it's the Everstone. And while this doesn't affect IVs directly, it's in the process. A Pokemon that holds the Everstone, whenever it breeds, its offspring will 100% have the nature of the Everstone holding parent. So let's say you're breeding with a Ditto and a Sneasel, and the Sneasel has an adamant nature. If you give it the Everstone, the offspring with the Ditto and Sneasel will have an adamant nature. And so that's something good to keep in mind. Next up would be the destiny knot. How the destiny knot works, it affects IVs directly. The parent that holds the destiny knot will bring down 5 IVs randomly. And so that's why it's good to have one of these dittos with 6 IVs, because it will always bring down at least, well, a maximum of 5 of the perfect IVs from that ditto. And so, I mean, it helps the process. It still takes a while because you have to keep breeding and breeding and breeding until you get all the IVs brought down. But it's much easier than breeding parents of like 2 Sneasels and hoping you get the right IVs, and then breeding that Sneasel offspring with another Sneasel and just keep going through that process. The other items are the power items, and while these generally have more of an effect on EVs, they do help with certain IV stats. More particularly if you're looking to build a Pokemon for a Trick Room team and you want it to have like 0 IVs and speed. If you were to give it the Power Anklet, which is the speed power item, that parent Pokemon will always send down its IV stat in speed. So if you have a Sneasel with 0 IVs in speed, and you want to breed a Sneasel that'll have 5 perfect IVs in all the other stats, but speed, you want that 0, by giving the Sneasel the Power Anklet, its offspring will always have the 0 speed IV. Next, we're going to move over to controlling EVs, which are much easier to control because we can change that after the Pokemon's been bred. There's a couple different ways to go about this. One way, and it's one that I don't use, but it is an option, are using vitamins. So like the carbos, protein, iron, so on and so forth. Each one of those will give 10 EVs to its particular stat, up to 100. So you can use 10 and boost like the attack up to 100 EVs, but after that they won't have an effect. Next up, we'll talk about Pokerus, which is something most people are probably familiar with, but not to how it affects the EVs. A Pokemon with Pokerus, whenever it defeats a Pokemon in battle, it will always get EVs, but with the Pokerus, it'll double that. So let's say you're fighting a Pokemon that gives 1 speed EV. With Pokerus, you'll get 2 instead of 1. And the next thing, which will work in conjunction with the Pokerus, is the power items. So for the example, using the Power Anklet, which boosts speed EVs, for every Pokemon that you defeat that would give you a speed EV, it adds 4 to that EV. So instead of getting 1, you're getting 5. And how that works with the Pokerus is that it doubles. So a Pokemon that was giving you 1 speed EV, in combination of Pokerus and the Power Anklet, you'll be getting 10, which makes things so much easier. The next thing is Horde Battles. Horde Battles is the easiest way to train EVs, at least in my mind. You can also do super training, but it's kind of a hassle, and it's random to a point. So when you get in a Horde battle, all the Pokemon will be the same, And when you're targeting a specific stat, like speed, in one horde battle, you can get 50 EVs. So when you're going up to 252 EVs, you only need to fight in 6 horde battles. And going along with this, we need another Pokemon that'll have Sweet Scent to activate those horde battles. And then XP share. By having the XP share, you just put the Pokemon you're training in the back, and you have a Pokemon in the lead with spread moves, and you just blow through these horde battles as quickly as possible. Alright, so now we're going to go over just some situations where these IVs and EVs make a difference to kind of give an explanation or an example. So right here we're back to this Weavile that we've been using. Alright, this Weavile, we're going to look at it going up against a Mega Salamence and a Mega Rayquaza, which are two pretty common Pokemon competitively, especially the Salamence. Right now, the Big Six is floating around a lot, and Salamence is a pretty big part of that. So with our Weavile, let's say we just have a basic Weavile. It doesn't have IVs in attack or EVs in attack. And this is considering nature. So let's say, for an example, it's adamant. So it has the attack boost, and we're giving it an item, an icicle plate, because it'll boost our attack stat up a little bit more. When we're going up against the Mega Salamence, we're including the Intimidate, so our attack stat's been dropped a stage. So just a basic Weavile with the item and the nature that's been intimidated. If it uses an Icicle Crash on a Mega Salamence, and this is just a basic Mega Salamence, so that it doesn't have, it's pretty much just like, it's mainly invested in special attack or attack and speed. This Weavile, when it Icicle Crashes, it has a 6.3% chance to kill that Salamence with one attack. Whereas, we'll move it up a little bit more. We'll give it 31 IVs in attack, no EVs, a positive attack nature, and a attack boosting item. When we use that Icicle Crash, we have a 62.5% chance to one-shot that Mega Salamence, even intimidated. Then we'll move that up even more. 31 IVs in attack, 252 EVs in attack, while intimidated, with a positive attack nature, and a attack boosting item, using that Icicle Crash. It's a guaranteed one-shot on your standard Mega Salamence. So you can just kind of see the difference that IVs make, EVs make, and then combined, it's pretty big. Next up, we'll look against the Mega Rayquaza. So our basic Weavile, no IVs, no EVs, in Strong Wind, against your basic Mega Rayquaza, using Icicle Crash, it's a guaranteed 2-hit KO. It's not great. So if we move it up a little bit, and we give it IVs and EV boost, plus the attack item, and the attack nature, in the Strong Wind, Icicle Crash, it's a guaranteed one-hit KO. The exception would be, obviously, if they have Focus Sash. But, we're just in without Focus Sash included. Guaranteed one-shot. That's a pretty big deal. Moving forward, we're going to look at it a little bit different. Now this is with Groudon, and we're looking at defense investment. With 156 special defense investment on a Groudon, with 31 IVs in special defense, there is a 43.8% chance to get one-shotted from a 252 special attack EV 31 IV Groudon Earth Power. Whereas you take all that away and it's just a basic Groudon, that same Earth Power will one-shot it. And that's just assuming that the opposing Groudon is 252 in special attack. So obviously the numbers will go down if you're against someone that's only have, let's say, 100 boost in the special attack. You're way more likely to survive that Earth Power in that mirror match, which is huge. Alright, next up, we're going to look at Mega Rayquaza. So this Mega Rayquaza, no attack boosting EVs with the Life Orb. When you use Dragon Ascent, you have... Oh, and my thing messed up. But it's roughly a 50% chance to one-shot a Primal Kyogre. Whereas, we have a 252 EV, 31 IV, attack, Life Orb, Mega Rayquaza, Dragon Ascent is a guaranteed one-shot on your pretty standard Primal Kyogre without defense or HP investment. Again, that's huge. In my playthroughs and testing, majority of the time, that's a one-shot. You're not going to see a lot of heavily invested defensive Kyogres. They are there, but this is the situation. Alright, so now we're going to move into the game, and I'm going to show you just kind of what it's testing EVs and IVs, trying to see how many we have in our particular stat. So, stick with me here. Okay, so right here, and you can't see all of its stuff, but this fungus has just been hatched, so I have no idea what it has in IVs. It doesn't have any EVs. And we're going to take it, I'm going to show you how to test the IVs, and you can find out more on a baseline of what it has. And this is in Pokemon Omega Ruby, and the same will be in Alpha Sapphire. So right now, we're at the end of the game. After I've beat the Elite Four, we're at the Battle Resort. You're going to fly here, go into the Pokemon Center, and go over here to this guy right here. And when you talk to him, he's going to talk about judging your Pokemon. And he's going to tell you in a roundabout way what the stats are on each Pokemon that you show him in accordance to their IVs. He won't tell you directly, like, this Pokemon has 31 IVs, yada yada yada. But, and I'll link in the description where it's basically a breakdown of what he says and what it means. So we're going to look at this fungus. And he say this Pokemon has outstanding potential overall, and basically that means that it has high IVs that are spread out. And he'll go over each stat, and he'll tell you the greatest, which stats are his best. So right now, this fungus, its best stats are in attack, attack, special defense, and speed. And then he'll say something like, they simply can't be beat, which means whatever stats he just said have 31 IVs. And a good way to keep track of that is when you go into the Pokemon summary. See if I can move this. Right here, underneath the Pokemon, you've got these little boxes. These correspond to the stats. So you have HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. A good way to keep track of what this guy tells you is if you click on one of those. So like we'll click on the second one, which is attack, and you put that little highlight on it, you know that that stat has 31 IVs. And I think we had speed and special defense and special attack. So everything but HP and defense. So while this fungus is good, it's not great. It could be better. But we can take this information, go back to breeding, and use that. So let's say the parents of that fungus was a 6 IV Ditto and another fungus or a mungus that had only 2 perfect IVs. We can take that parent fungus and switch it with this offspring fungus, which has 4 IVs that are perfect, and breed again. And so the chances of getting 6 perfect IVs has increased. And we can keep doing that until we get it, or at least where we want. And while 6 IVs is good, 6 perfect IVs is good, it's not required. And what I mean by that is you look at fungus. What are you going to be doing with fungus? Do you need it to be fast? Do you need it to be a physical attacker or a special attacker? If the answer is no to any of that, then you don't have to be as worried in getting the perfect IVs. So let's say speed. I don't need a fast Amoonguss. I mean, it's kind of the point in running Amoonguss. It doesn't need to be fast. So when taking that in mind, when I'm breeding, I don't really need to worry about making sure I get that perfect IV in speed, or even really attack. So you could be fine with a 4 perfect IV Amoonguss that doesn't have perfect stats in attack and speed, and you'll be fine. And this works for other Pokemon as well. Kangaskhan, for example, you don't need special attack. So you can do a 5 perfect IV Kangaskhan and move on, be happy with your day. You don't have to spend another hour breeding to get those perfect IVs, unless you want them. And there's people that do. But I mean, long term, it's not really going to matter, because that special attack is irrelevant to that Kangaskhan. So that's just going over the IVs. Now we're going to do EVs. We're going to do an example of EV training. So let me deposit some Pokemon first. So I'm going to EV train then Amoonguss or I mean that fungus that we just looked at. In my party, I'm gonna keep Tropius because he is my sweet scent user, and like I said, that's relevant to us. I also have Empoleon because he has my spread moves to just make the whole process go faster. And then obviously the fungus. Now this fungus doesn't have Poker Rust, so the full process won't be in effect. But just take that in mind when we're doing the training. I'm just going to do a quick run through and show you the basics of the EV training. So I want to give that fungus a power item. And the power item in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you get them at the Battle Resort for various levels of BP. It takes a while to get them, so just keep that in mind. So right here we have some of our power items. So we're going to use the power weight. That gives an additional 4 EVs to HP. And then I'm going to go online, and I will post the link to this in the bottom. But I'm looking for a Pokemon that comes in hordes that will yield HP EVs. And I have found one right here. Whimsor, I think, is its name. But it's at Rusturf Tunnel. The encounter rate's 100%, so I'm always going to find it. And it'll give me the 1 HP I need. So, going back to the game. We're going to use our Eon Flute. And we're going to go to that tunnel, Rusturf Tunnel. And I'll show you that process of training for the EVs. Excuse me. It's right over here somewhere. Right there. So let's go in, make sure XP share is on, which it is. Let's move our Pokemon around, put Empoleon in the front. Now we're going to go in, find our Sweet Scent user, use Sweet Scent. So here we have our horde battle. All I had to do, use the spread move, kill all these guys. And so since we don't have Pokerus, each one of those will give us 5. Since there's 5 in there, so we'll get 25 HP EVs from this battle. Whereas, if we had Pokerus, it'd be 50. So it's not impractical not using Pokerus. It just doubles the amount of time you have to spend. So when you want to check, just kind of see how your EVs are looking, let's go down here to the bottom screen. Right here, on Train Your Pokemon, click on the fungus, and you can look over here. You'll see the HP, the little needle, is moving up to HP. And then over here, on our bar, we have a little bit, and that's because we just earned those. Whereas, we look over here on the Empoleon, this one has not been specifically EV trained. This is what it'll look like. Whenever it's completely trained, this little icon up here will flash, and this bar will be all the way full. But you can see it kind of gives you an idea of where the EVs are distributed. Now let's say you get going, you mess something up. It's not backbreaker. You can fix it. You just have to, throughout the course of super training, you have to find a reset bag. And what the reset bag will do is it will clear all the EVs of the Pokemon. So let's say, like a recent example is I had a Groudon that originally I had EV trained him to be a mixed special and physical attacker. I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted him to be a pure physical attacker. So I just used the reset bag. It started over all the EVs, and then I was able to go in, retrain the EVs, and make him the special attacker I needed. And so that's pretty much it. If you have any specific questions, feel free to leave a comment, hit me up on Twitch, hit me up on Twitter. And if you found this at all helpful, or if if you'd like me to go more in depth in a future video, or have any recommendations for something you'd want to see, let me know. Drop me a follow, drop me a subscribe, like this channel, go follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, find out when I'm streaming, come watch me sometime. Alright, well, hopefully somebody found this helpful somewhere. Y'all have a good one. Thanks.